Hey folks, happy Thursday, wherever in the world you are joining us from. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to What's New in Customer Out. So this is going to be our spring showcase. We're going to go through 4 new features that we launched. Laura Bockel, who is on the call, is actually going to be the star of the show today. I'm going to give her a more formal introduction here in just a minute, but she's going to be walking you through these 4 new features that we've rolled out or updated, and kind of how they can help you drive more of that personalization, growth, model data in a more effective way, integrate your apps with your marketing platforms in a more effective way. So we're going to get into all the good stuff here in just a minute. Okay, first off, as always, if you've been to one of our events before, we love to start with a quick poll. We'd love to hear from you and see, kind of what you're focusing on here today. So I'm going to publish this poll. It's going to pop up on your screen, but let us know, what is your team's current highest priority for better customer engagement this year? Is it sort of those early life cycle stages? Are you trying to onboard, activate better? Is it late life cycle? Maybe you're focusing more on the churn moments, retaining people, winning them back. Or is it simply you're trying to do better omni-channel, add more channels to your mix? The other 2 options on there is personalization and efficiency. So maybe you're kind of trying to leverage a specific lifecycle KPI. We'd also love to hear if it's more one of those operational pieces of how you're doing your messaging. So let us know there in the poll as we let a few more people trickle in. And as those answers come in, if this is your first time with Customer.io or coming to a Customer.io event, hello, welcome. We're happy to have you here. If you're a customer and have been coming to our events for a while, thanks so much for joining us again. But just a quick overview as we dive into this. So Laura's going to be showing all types of things inside Customer.io, but Customer.io at a high level is a cross-channel customer engagement platform. So what that means is you can bring all of your messaging and data workflows all into one place. So you're running all of your email, push, SMS, and WhatsApp, your in-app messaging flows all within Customer.io, all based on the data coming in from your app. But then I think a lot of people start there, and then kind of the deeper dive you can go is you can actually run all of your data workflows inside Customer.io as well. So a lot of the stuff you're running in Zapier, if you need to update a CRM record based on some trigger in your app, et cetera, we'll get into that. But you can kind of bring all those things into one place. I won't spend long on this slide because we're going to actually be jumping into a live demo of the Customer.io platform, but this is kind of the visual workflow builder where all of those things that you're dreaming up are coming to life. So you're dragging and dropping in emails, push, in-app messages, and you're building out these workflows exactly how you want them. And then as you see there on the bottom left, you're bringing in all of those data actions as well. So pretty much dream it, do it. If you can dream it up, you can probably do it in Customer.io. I'm looking at our poll here. It looks like a lot of folks focusing on early life cycle, onboarding, activation, conversion as kind of the top answers so far. So we're excited to get into some examples that maybe can help you there. Okay, without further ado, we got Laura Bockel here, Solutions Architect. Laura, first off, thank you so much for joining us on this event. I'm really excited for the live demo. Could you give us just a quick kind of background into your role here? And then also, I'm curious to know what's kind of some of your favorite things to work on with customers?
Sure. Well, I'm a solutions architect here at Customer.io, and that basically means that I'm the technical contact during the sales process. So when we're talking with prospects, they're telling us about their use cases, and I'm answering any kind of technical questions that they have about what they can do on our platform. And so one of my favorite things is really getting those use cases from them and understanding what their pain points are and how we can help address those, and then showing them a live demo in our product of how Customer.io works and how we can meet those use cases and meet those pain points and just help make their lives easier. So it's fun to see those wow moments happen when they're able to see what they can do in our platform.
Yeah, and I think that's a great transition to this event too. Like I was saying earlier, Customer.io is kind of one of those dream it, do it platforms. So usually if you can dream it up, or if you have this technical challenge that you need to accomplish, you're trying to figure it out, there's a lot of flexibility as we're going to see in some of these features. So love that those wow moments can kind of happen naturally. Okay, we're about to get into our live demo portion, but really quick, folks who are just joining, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and go through these 4 features in the live demo. So we're going to start with SDKs. Foundation of everything in Customer.io is the data, so how you can integrate quicker with those. We're then going to jump to in-app messages, which are officially out of beta. Shout out to our product team and everybody who has kind of given feedback on those. So we'll look at that new native channel, and then we'll also dive into Subscription Center, kind of a very helpful piece to reducing those unsubscribes that we all don't want. And then we'll go to custom objects. Custom objects, I'm really excited about too. I think everyone has a unique data model. So this is more of a feature that'll help a lot with companies who maybe have B2C and B2B sides to the business, or even those B2B2C companies where maybe you have data objects that are not human, they're not people, but you still need to set up those data relationships in the right way. So we'll kind of go through that. Audience, we're happy to have you here. Please ask your questions in the chat throughout. We want this to be an interactive event. So if we're in a feature and we're demoing something and you have a follow-up question, you can see in the bottom right, there's a questions tab where you can put those. You can also use the chat. Either one works. We also have Byron. He's in the audience today. He's on our technical support team. He's going to be occasionally answering questions in the questions and chat areas as well. So please don't be shy. We want to hear from you. All right, Laura, are you ready to jump in?
Sure, let's do it.
As Laura is sharing her screen, really quick to the audience. So today we're going to be looking at a completely fake demo workspace. So no real campaigns, no real user data. Everything's fake, randomly generated dummy data that we'll be using for demonstration purposes. That being said, we have it based off a real business model. So I should say it's a fake company, Fluently.io, but it's mimicking an ed tech style business model where you have a language learning app. This is also a freemium company. So imagine this company's goal is to convert free users into paid premium subscribers. They have individual plans. They also have team plans. So with this fake company, we're going to get a good mix of use cases here on both the B2C and B2B side of things. So wherever you're joining us from in the audience, there's going to be a lot of tangible stuff here, I think. Okay, Laura, I will pop down the slides and let you share your screen.
Okay.
Perfect.
Hopefully everybody's seeing that. You should see the SDK page up from our documentation.
Yes, let us know, folks, too, if there's ever a slide or a screen share that's not working right, comment that in the chat. We want to make sure everything's good and sound technically here. So, Laura, as we get into this first topic of SDKs, like I was saying before, I think the root of everything when you're setting up a campaign is the data. So you have to get the right data in, and you also want it at the right time. I think as a marketer myself, I feel like I'm never limited with my imagination. I'm always dreaming up something new I want to do or something wild I want to personalize. But I think at the end of the day, when you have a web or mobile app, it comes down to the limiter can be, do you have that data in the right place? And is it in the way that you want it? So I think, and when you don't have that data in the right place, it's hard to personalize. It's hard to segment. It's hard to actually do campaigns that are relevant to your user base. So that can be a big blocker. So as we get into SDKs, first off, what are SDKs at a high level? And then what types of data and messaging channels do these unlock?
Sure. Well, SDKs are basically software development kits, and they are sample code that you can put into your application that basically will send the information to our platform so that you can create those segments and create your campaigns and your broadcasts and whatever you need to do using that data that's coming in from your platform. So we have 6 different SDKs so far. One of them is a web SDK. So it's a JavaScript snippet that you can add into your website code, and it will help you identify the visitors that come to your pages, track their page views, and then you can also send them in-app messages. And the SDK is really plug and play. It makes it really, really simple so that you can send information from your website directly to your Customer.io workspace, and then use that data to create those segments and create those campaigns and drive those communication channels that you have. And then we also have 5 different mobile SDKs to just make it really, really simple if you have a mobile app to integrate with Customer.io and send us that data so that you can use that for your marketing efforts. We have iOS, we have Android, we have React Native, we have Expo, and then Flutter as well. And so we have these different options. You do need some development resources to inject that code essentially into the code base that you have for your applications. But once that's set up and the data is flowing into Customer.io, a marketer can go right in and start working with that data immediately.
Yeah, and what we're looking at here too is our on our website on the docs page, there's a full SDK page here. And for anybody who's maybe thinking about integration, there's docs for each of these different SDKs for different ones. So if after this you want to get set up or you want to look at some of that documentation, it's all right there. Laura, one thing, when I've talked to developers before and they're debating an API integration or SDK, I occasionally hear the hesitation of like, well, with the SDK, I do have to install some like extra code in my app. What is it about the customer SDKs that make for a little more flexibility there and kind of avoid some of that code bloat that sometimes developers are hesitant about?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the nice thing about our SDKs is that they are modular. So you just install the parts of it that make the most sense for the type of data and the type of use cases that you have. So if you only want to send push notifications, you don't have to install the part of it that's for in-app messages, or vice versa. If you only want to do in-app, you don't need to install the part of it that sends push notifications. So it really is modular. You can pick and choose, or your developers can pick and choose what parts they want to integrate, or they can do the full thing if you want to be able to use all of the different messaging channels.
Yeah, love it. So I guess to summarize there, the SDKs are good for getting that data in from your web or mobile app, the identify calls, the stuff that's identifying who someone is in your mobile app or web app and what they're doing. But then also it unlocks that push notification functionality and in-app message functionality in a way that's a lot simpler for the end user after you've done that installation. Is that kind of a good summary here as we kind of wrap on SDKs?
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so there's SDKs. We're going to jump now over to in-app. So I think SDKs is a good foundational place to start because we're talking about getting data in, unlocking some of those messaging channels. We're starting here on the activity log. And so this is, I think, a good halfway point between going from SDK to in-app.
Yep.
Laura, what are we seeing here? And like if somebody were to install the SDK and get that behavioral data or data flowing in,
exactly.
What is the marketer looking at here, and what events and attributes can we zoom in on?
Yeah, exactly. So this is basically the activity logs in the platform. And so it shows the types of data, and I've filtered it to event data. So that would be coming from either the SDK, or if you have an API integration, or you've set up other integrations with our platform to pull that data in. And then once that data is in, then you can start segmenting off of it and building your campaigns and your broadcasts to trigger off of that. So here in these different events, you've got different things coming in. So you can see that certain lessons have been started. So if you wanted to create a segment for people who had just started a lesson, and then you want to send them like an in-app notification or an email or an SMS or whatever messaging channel you're using, to just, let them know, hey, we saw you started your first lesson. Great job. Start your next one, whatever that happens to be. We are using an educational tech demo for this. So our fluently.io company has things that are related to classes and languages that their users are learning and those kind of things. So this activity log you can pull right off of here, and you can kind of see what data is coming in to your platform. And then you can use that for segmenting. We also have different integrations here. If we look at the data index, these are all the different attributes that are coming in that would be added to the profiles of the people that you have in Customer.io. And those are the different things that you can segment off of or trigger campaigns off of. And then same with events. So you can see when you go into your workspace what data is coming in and what events are coming in and what attributes you have coming in, to make sure that when you're setting up your segments and your campaigns, that you're actually tracking the data that's most relevant to you. And if we look at a person's profile, you can see here the recent activities. You can see the events that they've done. You can see all the attributes that they have on their profile that you're using to segment them and to be able to send them messages. You can see the segments that they're in. You can see the most recent deliveries that they've gotten, whether it's been different, emails or SMS or whatever types of messaging channels you have set up. And that's what the person's profile will look like. And then since we're moving into in-app messages, so we found that, or I guess Fluently.io found that they'd studied the user journey, and they found that users who set a goal in their account have a higher chance of remaining a long-term subscriber in their platform. So they wanted to create a segment of users who have completed the account setup, meaning they've got an account on their platform, but they haven't yet set a goal. And they wanted to specifically target them to remind them to set that goal. And so because that data was flowing into their platform, they were able to create that segment of people who had created an account and they had completed that, but they had not yet set their goal. So then once they'd created that segment, they can trigger a campaign off of that. So we have different triggers for campaigns. We can trigger them off of events. You can trigger them off of webhooks. This one specifically is based off of a segment. So that segment, people that fall into this goal needed category. So, we set that up, and then in our workflow, we have the trigger, which is they're part of that segment. And then we have different messaging channels over here. So we have email, in-app, push, even Slack, or SMS. And so here I wanted to do a check to see if they had opted into SMS. And if they had, then we could send them an SMS reminding them to set their goal. If they haven't opted into SMS, then we can send them an email reminding them to set their goal. And I also have a couple time windows locked in here. So we would only send between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. in the user's time zone, so that you're not sending text messages, at midnight or something like that. We have lots of different delays that you can choose to use in the workflow, and our workflow builder is really, really simple, I think, from a building perspective to get it in the way that you want it to be. So as long as you're tracking that user's time zone, so that data is coming over into Customer IO, then you can set that time window. And then you can also default to, Pacific Standard Time or Mountain Time or Eastern Time, whatever makes the most sense to you. So we've got these different channels, right? We've got SMS, we've got email. Then I have a time delay built in. So then we can wait a day, and then we can send them a push notification to remind them to set their goal. And then I have it waiting another hour. You can set your time delays for minutes, hours, days, weeks, whatever makes the most sense to you. And then we can send them an in-app message. And this is what I really wanted to show you, because this is one of the newest features that we have. And so when you create your in-app message, you're taking to this screen and you can set up your message. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this, or do you want me just to go into the builder now, Cody?
Yeah, no, Laura, thanks for taking us through. I think it's folks who are maybe, I think this example is great too, because we're trying to get someone with this fake company to set a goal. I think probably folks in the audience who maybe have product-led growth models, sometimes you aren't going for that first conversion quite yet. You're just trying to get them to take the steps needed to, improve the stickiness in your app, get them to, adopt more, set a goal for themselves so they're actually going to follow up and do these things. So love the example that we're going towards. And the omni-channel kind of flow there. I'm interested here in the editor view. So for somebody who's setting up in-app messages, is this something, I think historically when I've talked to folks, maybe they have some kind of hacky version of in-app setup because their developers have built some sort of in-house version, but it's usually very hard coded. It's very hard to edit and update. And so the in-app messages quickly become outdated or hard to manage, which makes sense because you're there to build your app. And hey, we're customer. We're the ones who are putting the time into building this engagement tool. So as we look at the editor here, what would you recommend for a non-technical user stepping into this? Is this a place that's built for non-technical users, or how does the editing process work?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I think is so great about this in-app message builder, is that it is pretty user-friendly. You don't need to have dev resources to code this. If you're a marketer and you just want to go in and create it, you can just create it from the get-go, and you can see a live preview of how it's going to look when you send it to your customers. So in this initial one, so in the workflow, basically I just dragged an in-app message over, and it was as simple as that. And then when I go into the builder, so you would edit your content, you're going to have different sample messages that you can pull from. And so for this one, I just picked the example the welcome example message. Up in this header here, you have some different options to choose from. So you can say how you want to identify people, either by ID or their email address, whatever your unique identifier is that you have. You can say how you want the in-app message to display. So do you want it to be on the top of the page, the center, or the bottom? You can also do an overlay or inline if it's on a website. You can do inline in a mobile app, but that does require some custom code. So you would have to code that into your own application. So you would need dev resources if you wanted to do inline for mobile, but for web, you don't. You can just choose that you want it to be inline. You can also set the priority, so low, medium, or high. Messages with high priority are going to show first, and then we will prioritize based on what you set on when to show them. So if it's a low priority and then you've got a high priority message separately, the high one is going to show before the low. And then you can also set the expiration. The default is 30 days, but you can change this to, however you want, however many days you want it to be, or hours or minutes. And you can also say an absolute date or a relative date. You can choose where you want it to display, whether you want it to just be on the website or if you want it to be on iOS and Android or just one or the other. And so those are some of the custom options that are just here in this header. Next, we've got some content. So when you set up your example message, your first welcome message, you'll have some custom fields that you can build in. And then once you've created that message, you can just enter in here using Liquid so that it will display pulling in from the account attributes that you have for the people. It will pull in that information. So you can see here for the name, I'm pulling in Malvina's first name. And you can see based on the people that fit the criteria for this segment, you can scroll through theirs and then you can see how it changes in real time. Let's go into editing the message here. So this is the builder, the actual builder for when you're creating your sample messages. And so you have all sorts of control on how your message looks. You can change the padding, you can put border colors in, border widths. Any way that you want it to look to match to your brand standards, you can build it to look that way. And there's all these different components you can add. You've got image padding, you can add images, you can add GIFs, you can add, different blocks of content to get your message to look and feel the way that you want it to, so that matches other communications that you're sending or matches the look and feel of your app or your website. And then in the body text, you can set these properties, which was on the previous page where I had put in name. So this is where the name would be under properties name. And then we've got this lesson, right? So then when we go back to the message, I can show how you can change this pulling in Liquid to pull in the actual name from that attribute. And so, yeah, you have a lot of control over here, and a marketer can go in and can play with this and determine how they want it to look, how much padding, how big they want it to be. All of this is customizable for you in our platform.
For folks on the brand side, I think it's great that there's this much control and actually control, knowing this is going to pop up in your app. You probably are thinking, I want this to look and feel like it's part of our app. So you can have this full control of colors, fonts.
Exactly. Yeah. You can set the branding right here, and then it will show you the live preview once you update those. So now if we go back to the message, let's see if I can get in here. I'm trying to find where it is. Okay, here. So now that we're back here, so this lesson, that was the properties lesson that I had on the previous page when I was building the message. So I can use Liquid to actually pull in the course here. Let me see what it's called. I think it's lesson enrollment. So here it's pulling in her lesson as Arabic Literature Lesson 1. And so that Liquid pulls it right into here, into the message. So that's how you can personalize these messages specific to your customers. And if we look at Victor's, it will update the preview to show that he's studying French music.
Double music.
Double music. But so that's how you can see this this real-time display of what your message is going to look like. So then when you save that, you can just go back to your workflow builder, and then you can continue to build out your flow into what makes the most sense for how you want to communicate with your customers. So if you want to send, an SMS or another email or a push notification, whatever channels you have set up, you can build those in to the workflow.
Love that. Yeah. And Laura, I think this is, again, a moment where as a marketer myself, I'm like, boom, boom, dream it, do it. I'm ready. My imagination is ready. I'm ready to trigger some of these in-app messages. But what would you say? I saw a stat the other day that in-app messages sometimes converts up to 3 times higher than email when looking at purely conversion rates, which I guess at some level is logical because in-app messages hitting someone right when they're actively already have their attention.
Right.
But I guess given that kind of that stat, like, should we all ditch email and go all in on in-app, or where does in-app kind of fit in the overall cross-channel approach? How would you recommend folks kind of adopt it alongside other channels?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is just part of that omni-channel approach, right? You want to be able to target your customers on the channels that they want to receive messages on, and in the way that makes the most sense for them. So, email still has its place, absolutely, and we would recommend just testing, testing emails, testing push, test in-app, test SMS, see what you're getting the best response with. You have all of these different channels, you might as well use them. And then you can target your customers based on their preferences. So if they prefer to receive email, then you're able to send them email. If they want to receive SMS and they opt into that and you've got their phone number, you can send them SMS. And same with push and in-app. Those are always available. And so I would say test them because each channel has its place. I know for me, depending on what it is, I actually like to receive emails because then I can go through and I can mark them to like follow up or to do or whatever it is that I want. But I also know that if I'm in an app and I get that notification right away, then I'm more likely to take action on it immediately versus, something that gets put in my to-do folder. So I think all of the channels definitely have their purpose, and you can do like A/B testing. So in our platform, so you can test your emails and see which one is getting a better response, or test your different channels and see what's having the most impact on your customers.
Yeah, I actually had a situation last week where I used an in-app message and inside Customer.io. How meta is that? But it popped up to our customers as part of a campaign I was doing. And I actually had the email and the in-app message trigger at the same time, not to over message them, but also knowing that, hey, the in-app, they'll see it when they log in. The email will be somewhere else. Let's try them at the same time. And a customer reached out to me and said, oh, cool, in-app. I like this one. And I was like, oh, great. Like they saw the in-app message. That's really great. And I said, oh, did you like it at the same time as the email? Like, was that okay? Or did it feel like a lot? And they said, what email? And so the email had gotten buried in, an inbox, but the in-app message was the thing that they saw. So to me, that was just a quick example of, okay, like each channel has its place, leverage them all at once for the biggest impact. So I was like, great, this is a great example that this happened 1 week before we're doing this webinar, but was a good wake-up call for me there.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So I do have a little demo set up here that one of my fellow solutions architects built just to show how the in-app message would be displayed on a website. So let me go ahead and put my info in here. And then there are different types, right? So you can display it at the top, the center, the bottom. You can do an overlay, or you can do inline. So we'll do like modal center. Let's try that. And it is doing API calls, and we're on a live webinar, so we'll see. Sometimes it's a bit slow, but hopefully it'll pop up soon.
And again, this isn't part of the customer UI, but our own little testing environment.
Yeah, it's a testing.
So you can run these kind of tests within your app as well.
So there's the message that popped up there. And then if we want to try inline, would be on a website. You can do it, as I said, in mobile, but it does require you to write some code in your application to manage the inline and specify where you want it to show. On ours, on this little website, we have this empty space right here. And so this is set up to show the in-app message inline within our website here. And then, so you can do this on a website, or like I said, you can do it for mobile as well. So that's just a quick little demo of how it looks.
I love the inline one. I think so many possibilities there. And I'm also thinking about, you have that level of control of where it displays. So I'm thinking about using like link parameters or UTM parameters to show maybe someone one thing on a site like this, or someone something else, or within the app somewhere. So lots of possibilities to test, and also personalize. So we aren't just blasting like a mass in-app message. You can still use that same granularity and segmentation and adding parameters to filter, so that you're creating all kinds of different in-app message experiences.
Yep, exactly.
There was actually a good question in the chat that Byron chimed in and answered, but Will Massey asked, can you pull in event properties in addition to customer properties for those. And Byron followed up, and yes, you can, as long as the trigger is an event. So in the campaign we're in here, this is actually a segment triggered campaign. So you can't pull in those event properties. But if you were to have triggered this same workflow using an event like signed up, or maybe you had a follow-up campaign that's like based on the event goal set. If you were in the event properties, you were carrying in what their goal was, maybe what subject it was in, you could access all of that kind of event attribute data in the in-app message or in any message that you're using. So lots of cool stuff there.
Yep, you would just set up an event triggered campaign.
Event trigger.
Yep, and then you would just say.
Someone else, Henry asked, is the colorful bird shirt the key to maximizing in-app conversion rates? Yes, I chose this shirt just for that reason. It's my in-app messaging shirt. Thanks, Henry. All right, we're going to jump. Laura, any last things on in-app, or are we good to jump into Subscription Center?
I think we're good to jump into Subscription Center.
Okay. I know Arpit earlier in the comments said super excited about Subscription Center and custom objects. So Arpit, this is your moment. We're getting into it. So I think prefacing into Subscription Center, you've probably heard this in a ton of blog posts. People are saying that consumers have a very low threshold these days for generic communications. Personalization isn't cool anymore. It's expected. It's the standard. So I think, and people also want full control over their experience. They want to be able to choose what messages they're getting from a company and which they're not. So I think when you don't do that, again, people have a low threshold. So when you aren't personalizing or when you aren't sending things that are relevant, people are quick to click that unsubscribe button. And I think the worst thing is when you get that global unsubscribe. Somebody unsubscribes from every form of communication that you're sending. And then as a marketer, you have less of a chance to be able to impact them because you can't use these channels anymore after they unsubscribe. So Laura, getting into Subscription Center, what is this feature and kind of how does it help avoid those dreaded global unsubscribes?
Exactly. Well, it's exactly what you said, right? So previously, when you have your unsubscribe link in an email and someone clicks on it, they're unsubscribing from everything. But now with Subscription Center, you can set topics, and then when they click on that unsubscribe link, they can choose what topics they want to subscribe to and which ones they no longer want to receive information on. So in this particular use case for Fluently.io, they have different languages that their users can be learning at any given time. So a user may say that if they're currently learning Spanish and say French, they only want to receive updates and information about those two language topics. They may also want to receive product updates, and they may want to know about events that are happening. So given this center now, you as the customer can create your topics, and then your customers can choose which ones they want to subscribe to and which ones they want to unsubscribe from. So here, if I want to be able to add a topic, I just click on here, and let's say we want to add German as a language. You can say automatically subscribe people. So if you've got everyone in your database, you can say that, yes, I want them to be automatically subscribed to this topic. And then they can choose whether or not they want to unsubscribe from it. And then this is just confirming that you're going to be subscribing all of these people to this topic. And then this shows up as another topic that you have within your subscription center that your users then can choose. You can brand this similar to like the in-app messages. You can brand this to your company's colors. You can't do fonts yet, but you can do colors and images, logos. And then you can see a preview live of what it will look like. So if they click on the unsubscribe link, they will be taken to this landing page, and then they can choose which ones they want to subscribe or unsubscribe from. And then they can save their preferences. And so this gets rid of that global unsubscribe previously, right? So if they clicked unsubscribe, they were done. They were no longer receive messages from you about any topic. But now with Subscription Center, you can create the topics, and then your users can choose what they want to get information on, so that you're not losing them completely from everything. And I think that's just a great way to handle this unsubscribe. Another thing that's coming down in the next release of our Subscription Center is the option for users to choose their preferred channel. So right now they can choose the topic. Later on in the next release of the Subscription Center, they'll be able to choose whether they want to receive emails, SMS, as their channels or Slack notifications, those kind of things, whatever message channels we have. So that will be in the next iteration. So I think it's great that now we're trying to customize it and personalize it for you so that you can personalize it for your users.
I think like thinking about as a B2B marketer myself, thinking about SMS, I'm like, I always get nervous because I'm like, oh, like it feels like an intrusive channel. But then I've had people sometimes tell me, oh, like I wish you would have just sent me an SMS. Like I would have seen that way easier on this thing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, like, and so this gives them control to actually choose what they want. So I love that because it takes my nervousness out of thinking, is this the right channel? Is this the wrong channel? Should I be doing this on email instead?
Exactly.
Let the consumer choose, I guess, at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Laura, one other question on this. So, love the level of personalization this has. I'm also thinking my one quick pushback mentally as I'm jumping to different scenarios is what if I'm like a product marketer and when we launch this, a ton of people unsubscribe from the product updates. They just want to receive their Spanish, French, Arabic lesson updates, but nobody wants to hear about the product launches. And so they unsubscribe from that. As I'm someone who's maybe a product marketer trying to grow adoption of features, I'm suddenly lost. Like, what if I lose like 30% of my list after implementing the subscription center? Is that good, bad? Like, what would you say to somebody who's kind of worried about one of these list sizes going way down?
That's an interesting thought. I think, obviously if your users do unsubscribe from that topic, then, they're not going to receive the communications that you're sending about that topic. But I think personalizing it for your users and giving them that choice is just going to make them happier overall with the messages that they're getting from your company. So if they're able to get the messages that they want to receive on the topics that they're interested in and on the channels that they want to receive those messages, then I think that's just going to lead to an overall happier customer than if you were sending them messages all the time about things that they just weren't interested in.
Yeah, kind of a quality over quantity type thing.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
imagining too, like a language learning example is probably a great one here because there's probably very few people in the world who are going to take Spanish, French, Arabic, English, and German all at the same time. People are
Exactly.
probably trying to achieve one thing on your platform first.
Mhm.
So sending a Spanish learner an English focused, course promotion probably is not the right message to send and probably will induce that unsubscribe. So
Not going to be relevant for them.
quality over quantity seems like the right play
Mhm.
here.
Yeah, and there's other applications, obviously, right? If you're a SaaS company and you want to do, you want to send messages about blog posts or webinars and events or product launches, those kind of things, you can set those topics. If you're a financial services firm and you want to do something about like personal finance or product updates or like stocks, those kind of things. Or if you're a media company, you could do, tech news or world news or, finance, politics, whatever sort of topics makes the most sense for your business. You can set those topics and then your users can decide which ones they want to subscribe to.
Yeah. Arpit called out in the comments. We had to build our own subscription center when we were using Customer at Integromat. Yeah, hopefully this is something that you can now not have to go to a third-party subscription center and eliminate that bill and start managing those subscriptions right here in the same place. And the nice thing is this is obviously not a third-party tool that you have to integrate. It's right inside the Customer platform. So all that data should flow a lot easier now too.
Exactly.
Bernardo had a quick question. How do users subscribe? How would Fluently.io lead their users to subscribe in the first place?
Sure. So when you send an email to them, best practice is to have that unsubscribe link in that email. So if they click on that link, then they would be sent to this landing page, and then they would have the option to check and uncheck, the things that they want to hear from. And then when they save those preferences, they will automatically be put into unsubscribe from the topics that they unchecked. So right now they're subscribed to all. And then if they click that link, they would, choose what they want to subscribe to. And then they would be saved on their profile to say that they've unsubscribed from, this particular topic.
Yeah. You could also set it up to Bernardo, like, for example, where we run these webinars, maybe some folks come in as their first touch with Customer.io is through one of these webinars. We could maybe just subscribe them to just the webinar line item on the subscription center. Maybe product updates they can choose to subscribe to in the future, but you can kind of set it up as just one thing to start or all of them to start, and then they work backwards towards what they want. So
right.
whatever best practice looks like for your business there.
Yeah, when you set your topics, you can say whether you want to automatically subscribe them or not.
We got one more question, and then I want to make sure we have time for objects. So we'll jump over there, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. But Henry asks, any recommended number of topics? Enough to allow good segmentation, granularity, but not too many that would be overwhelming. Yeah, Laura, what's your thoughts there?
I mean, I think that's exactly right. You don't want to have too many where they're having to click through, 17 different options. But you want it to make the most sense for your business. So have those topics that align with the different types of messages or content that you would be sending. For this particular demo with Fluently, because they have so many different language options, they could potentially have a lot of different topics that people could subscribe to. But for other businesses, you may only have 4 or 5. And then, they have the option to subscribe to what makes the most sense for them. So I think what makes the most sense for your business in terms of the different types of messages that you would be sending, or the different topics that make the most sense for you and how you want to segment your audiences. And then, also not making it too overwhelming for the users to choose from. So keep it simple.
Yeah. I'd like start with a few, and make sure you have the team resources to actually do it right too. Like you want to be able to actually cater campaigns to those different ones. So no point in having 10 if your team can only support a couple of the topics as far as content. So,
right.
Great question. Okay, let's switch over to objects. There's a couple more questions. Keep them coming in, and we'll save them for the end too. But so up to this point, I think or I guess anybody who has a data model that maybe isn't perfectly flat, like maybe you have some data relationships going on, it can be hard across different tools to model these in the right way, or maybe some tools handle them different than others. And when you can't model like maybe an employee within an account or a student within a course, like those type of data relationships, it's tough because it usually leads to a lot of extra development time to be able to send in more API calls to make messages go out to everyone within that data relationship, versus being able to model it in the way you want. So this is a tough situation, but Laura, talk to us about objects and how it kind of takes that first step towards solving this sort of data relationship problem. And walk us through how it works.
Sure. So custom objects is basically a way to handle one-to-many relationships. And we heard this quite often on calls with prospects that, we had several different customers we were talking with who had people that maybe were freelancers and worked at several different companies, and they wanted to be able to target all of the employees of a particular company. And instead of having to add those as separate attributes every time and then create these custom segments and custom filters that would drill down into that information, they wanted to be able to handle that as a company, as a separate object, and then all of the people that align underneath that company would have those relationships. So we built this custom objects functionality in our platform so that now you can do that one-to-many relationship. Companies is one example. For like this particular educational demo, it could be courses, that they're taking. So all of the students that fall under these courses. So instead of companies, you would have, courses or classes. So there's different ways that you could apply this. For this demo, I just set up different companies. And so you can add a company here from the user interface. You can create specific attributes for that company here. To connect the relationships of the people to the company, right now you have to do it through an API call. So you send that through the API to manage those relationships and set those relationships to the company. Eventually, you will be able to do that in the user interface as well. So you will need a dev resource initially to set those relationships, but you can create the companies or the courses or whatever makes the most sense for your custom objects yourself in the user interface. So I was able to send through, I created these companies, and then I was able to send through and set relationships to them with a couple different people that we have in this workspace. And for Fluently.io, for this particular use case, they offer different business plans, right? So companies can pay for their employees to enroll in a language learning course. and they have different options of plans. They have, a free plan, they have a premium plan, they have an enterprise plan. So they wanted to create a segment of people that when a company upgrades to an enterprise plan, they want to be able to trigger a campaign that would send messages to those employees to let them know that their company upgraded. And now they have all these new features available to them. So once I was able to create the companies and I set the relationships, then I was able to create a segment for upgrading to enterprise where the plan name is equal to enterprise and upgrade is equal to true. So you would set this just like you would create a segment for users, for people in the database. You can create segments for objects that you have set up. And in this case, it's companies. So the relationship to companies exists, and then the segment are these two qualifiers. And then I was able to create my workflow to trigger messages to people when their company upgraded. So again, I did the SMS check. Did they opt into SMS? Yes, they have. And then I built the SMS message to send to them that, welcome, your company just upgraded, check out the new features that you have. And all of our workflow builders, all of our channel message builders have this live preview. So you can see as you're building your message, what it will look like. And then I also created an email, same kind of thing, where to let them know that, their company has upgraded to enterprise. There's new features, visit your classes to get started and see those new features. And then I set a time delay of a couple days and then did an in-app message that you can send to them, like, welcome to enterprise, click here to get started. Your company is upgraded. It's great. You can check out these new features. And that would be an in-app message that they would get once they logged in. So custom objects is just a great way to handle those relationships that aren't necessarily people that you have in your workspace, but other objects that you need to relate those people to. And then in our next iteration of objects, we're going to we'll have many-to-many relationships. So a use case that came up recently that would fit that is I was working with a company that, in addition to having the same employees of different companies, they also had different titles, and they wanted to be able to target somebody that had the title admin at these particular companies. And so once we have the many-to-many set up, you would be able to create a segment of people who are part of that company and have that title. So that's coming out next in our next iteration of objects. So it's really exciting what we can do with this and the flexibility that it gives you in our platform to really target your customers in the way that you need to. And the nice thing about this right now too for us is that our competitors don't have something like this. So this is a real differentiator for us, and it's very, very exciting. It's been very well received by the customers that I've been working with. So I think it's a great thing that we have now. And yeah, it just creates more flexibility for you as marketers to segment your audiences.
Yeah, I think end of the day, coming back to the theme we started with of you're most impactful when you have all the data that you need in the format that you want it and the moment that it happens. And that's where you're actually able to stop with thinking through all the technical aspects, but actually jump to where your imagination's going with how to launch this campaign. So this seems to me like one more feature that's really enabling that and probably making teams developers a little happier too, that they don't have to send in quite as many API calls just to trigger one thing.
Yep, definitely fewer API calls.
Looks like we got some comments in the chat. Byron, thanks for chiming in there, providing some follow-up docs to those more technical questions.
Nice.
We're going to jump over to Q&A for this last 10 minutes. So Laura, thank you so much for the live demo there and for walking us through all those things. I love these really tactical, actionable type webinars. So appreciate you walking through them.
Mm-hmm.
So really quick before we get to Q&A, if anybody, we have lots of customers, I think, in the audience. So thanks so much for joining us. If anybody is a non-customer and actually wants to see deeper into some of these features, I'm going to pop up a quick link. We're happy to walk you through this in a follow-up demo. So bear with me as I put this link in if you want to book that right away. But I'll pop this in. It'll pop up on your screen. See how good my live copy pasting is on the fly here. There we go. Yeah, but we're happy to take you through these things a little bit deeper. We have more of these type of examples set up. Let me see. It's going to pop up. More of these examples set up so we can go deeper on objects. We can go deeper on subscription center. In-app messages, we have a lot of examples there. So happy to help. And then I want to do a quick promo here. So I know in our initial poll, we had a lot of you were working on onboarding and the kind of that early life cycle stage. How do you get people to take those first actions? So I'm going to post a second link here. Our next webinar is actually we're hosting in partnership with Whimsical. And they are a whiteboarding tool that a lot of folks use to plan their campaigns. Oh, my pasting is not well. There we go. People use Whimsical to plan their campaigns, and then a lot of times they use Customer.io to actually implement them. So we're going to do a webinar on April 11th with them. Let me type this in. And so here is that link that's popping up on your screen if you want to claim your seat for that next workshop. That's going to be super actionable. We're actually going to look through how to diagnose points in your funnel where people are maybe dropping off. And then we'll kind of show some strategies in Customer.io for building better onboarding campaigns that adapt to what your users are actually doing in your mobile or web app. So that's going to be a fun one. Be sure to claim a seat there, and we'll see you on the next one. Yeah, here's a quick look. I meant to jump to this slide too, but there's kind of the build out in Whimsical that we'll be doing live, and then we'll kind of be live building in Customer.io and actually launching a better onboarding campaign based on some examples of common challenges that folks have. So be a good one. Okay, we're at the Q&A portion. So if anybody has any questions that we haven't answered or ones that got lost in the chat, please bubble them up. We're happy to use this time to do that. Byron also has been our handy person in the chat answering a lot of them. So there's a lot of docs there, but if there's anything we can answer live, we're happy to do so. Laura, I guess as we wait for a couple questions to come in, after going through kind of this those 4 features, is there any other examples or like use cases that have come up recently in your conversations with people evaluating Customer.io where one of these features has kind of stood out or like has done something exciting that you can think of?
I think I keep going back to the objects one. We were able to win a deal because we had this custom objects option. And they wanted to be able to target the different people, the different freelance workers at the different companies and be able to target them based on where they were working at that particular time. So I know that was a great use case that came up, and we were able to work through it and show them how they can do it on our platform. Again, yeah, Subscription Center was another one, being able to choose the topics that they can subscribe to. Is a great feature instead of unsubscribing from all. I'm trying to think if there's anything recent, nothing that's coming to mind off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks are doing a lot more with like push and in-app, especially mobile companies. So that's kind of a tandem of 2 features, the SDK kind of unlocking that and making that a lot easier for developers to get marketers set up in a way where they can do push and in-app without having to constantly be saying, hey, I need more dev time, or I need to put something in the developer queue.
Yeah, the fact that they can just build it right in the platform makes it so easy to do.
Yeah.
I like that you can, you can go in and you can have it look exactly how you want it to look without having to write custom code to do it.
Yeah, totally. Kind of adding that like drag and drop style editing experience to something that historically has been a lot more technical in in-app message. You can still, I think, like you said, you can take those next steps by adding your own code, adding Liquid. So you can kind of get as wild as you want it there from a technical standpoint.
And personalization too, being able to use Liquid immediately in there in all of our message channels to pull in that personalization just makes it so much more relevant to your audience.
If anyone else has any questions, we have a couple more minutes, but if nobody else has anything too, we can wrap up early. We'll give a last minute here in case anything comes through. We ran a campaign the other day where we had unique links for different folks. So we had a webhook that was going out and grabbing a unique link from Bitly, assigning that to the customer profile, And we were actually using that unique link within the in-app message as well. So we wanted people to click through with again, like that link parameter specific to each person. But the in-app message handles all that. You put that link in, they click through, they have the parameter, and everybody's in-app message is a little bit different than on their screen. So
exactly,
kind of that personalization at scale play.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's see. We have. Hey, Henry has a question. Will we ever get a look into how Customer.io uses Customer.io? I guess this kind of is, Henry. I'm giving away some secrets here of my own campaign building, but no, that would be fun. Bernardo asked, will you share the recording of this and the next webinar? Where can we find them? Yeah, so you actually, as soon as we log off here, give it like a couple minutes. We're using Livestorm as a webinar platform. Give it a couple minutes, and this recording will actually be live sent to your email inbox. I think it usually triggers a couple minutes after. So do a quick refresh, and you'll have this one ready to go. We also republish them on the website about a week later in more of a Wistia format, so you can view it in that way. But yeah, the recordings are given to you right after the event ends. And if you can't make the next one, April 11th, still be sure to sign up for it, because again, you'll get the recording right afterwards, and then you have it, you can watch it on demand, whatever. So everything's recorded and sent to your email inbox. Okay. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being our guest of honor here today and demoing through some of those things. Yeah, like I said, I always enjoy these webinars when they're that level of detail and tactical. Looking into that kind of stuff is my favorite. So thanks so much for demoing for us.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Amazing. Audience, thanks so much for joining us, and we hope we see you on the next one. All right, cheers.
Bye.